The other one, the white one.
Can I try the picture? Just it doesn't even have to spin, just let us sit down.
Yeah, for some people that could really turn out, this is too follow, right? Good morning, Milwaukee. Good morning, Wisconsin. It's showtime. I am ecstatic to be here this morning. And I want to tell you why, right off the bat, I'm ecstatic to be here this morning. After the election results on Tuesday, I wanted to check something in particular. I wanted to check to see how many people voted in the Democratic primary and how many people voted in the Republican primary. And the reason I wanted to do this is because as a student of elections, I've watched for years to see how excited the base is. How excited the base is. And I've seen elections where tens of thousands more Republicans showed up in a primary to vote than Democrats. And what that usually means is the momentum is going in that direction. And I can speak from experience when I say that. That's why I wanted to check the turnout. And I sat down first thing Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning with my phone, and I went through and added all the votes for the Democrats and all the votes for the Republicans. 81,000 more people voted for the Democrats. 81,000. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. But the reason it's so important is because people have been watching. They've clearly been watching the crazy show in Washington, D.C.
Hello, somebody.
But they have also watched what's happened in this state in the last 8 years with the division, the regression, the meanness that has gone on in this state over the last 8 years.
There you go.
And you know what?
Yes.
They're tired.
Yes.
It's over.
It's over.
It's over. And we have put together an incredible ticket. Obviously, Tony Evers. Let's give him a round of applause. It's going to bring respect and maturity back to that office. Yes. He is a teacher. He is not a career politician. He wasn't 23 years old trying to figure out how to run for president. He was 23 years old trying to help kids learn how to read. That's the difference. That's the difference. You've got Scott Walker, who has, for entire life, tried to get to be the president. And you've got Tony Evers, who has tried to make our kids in this state become better citizens by learning more. The choice could not be more clear. The biggest thing we need to do is we need to break down our barriers.
Oh, yes.
We can't talk to people just like us. We have to make new friends, we have to make new acquaintances, and we have to talk about the great strengths that Tony brings, that Josh brings, that Mandela brings, that Sarah brings. And if we do that, I am so confident that we are going to have the best November that we have had in many years. That's our education, better roads, the environment, making sure that we've got respect among the citizens of the state, good relations with local governments. That's something I have a special passion for. I don't want to go to Madison, as I have for the last few years, and feel like I'm talking to the wall. That's how it feels. But we can change that. We can change that, and we will change that. One of the other people who's going to help lead this effort is my friend Gwen Moore. Now, Gwen just won. gotta find the 11% that made a mistake in voting, because she only got 89%. But she's fired up, she's ready to go. Please join me in welcoming my Congresswoman, Congresswoman Gwen Moore.
The people have spoken. Yes, they have. And I'm going to find those 11% that didn't vote for me. And convince them. And they'll be there for the general election no matter what. Just let me say this, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. We have an extraordinary opportunity with the blue wave that's coming, but first we got to part the Red Sea. That's right, we got to part the Red Sea. And I think that a good place to start is with this fantastic ticket that we have. Yes. And I just want to thank all of the candidates, and I see them here. I am so delighted to see the gubernatorial candidates who were here in the primary, ready to come together. We have a very distinguished ticket. I have a personal relationship with these people. But there's one in particular that I'm going to focus on introducing. They did not give me the privilege of introducing all of them, else I would have had my 50 minutes of fame. They only gave me a few minutes, and so I want to introduce to you someone who's going to be our candidate for Attorney General. Something out to y'all before I introduce him. I'm a politician, boy. You give me a mic, and I get more than my 1 minute. I just can't resist it. Attorneys general around this country are our only defense against a corrupt presidency that we're seeing. An attorney general to protect us, to protect the environment, to protect people with disabilities, to protect people's right to vote, to protect people who are giving their kids chicken nuggets. We're talking about the attorneys general of this country. And we have an exceptional candidate. Our candidate, Josh Cowell, cut his teeth as a federal prosecutor in one of the most important jurisdictions in the country, and that's the Baltimore regions. It's one of the most violent, controversial places with murderers, gang members, drug traffickers, and he spent his time taking dangerous criminals off the street and making that community more secure. But you know what? He had these Midwestern passions that brought him back home. And I happened to know him personally. And so I knew that this intense passion was growing in him to come home and to do something different. He wanted to use his experience in jurisprudence to do stuff like protect people's voting rights. And let me tell you something. Don't be fooled when you hear hear names like North Carolina and Texas, Wisconsin led the charge under Scott Walker in denying people their vote. And this Attorney General wants to be in place to make sure that he protects people's voting rights. This should not be a partisan issue, and unfortunately, it has become that. Josh grew up in what he calls a law enforcement family. I knew his family. I met Josh when he was about 7 years old, y'all, up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Went off, took my kids, him off to the pumpkin farm together to shop. That's how much. So I know about this law enforcement family. He had a stepfather who was a cop, and then when he retired, started teaching people with special needs. Look at the range of experiences Josh grew up with. His mom, Peg Longschlager, the first and only female Attorney General in this state. His mother, who went on afterwards to defend working people, worked for SEIU as an attorney, and worked and protected the rights of the working man, the forgotten man. That is the background that Josh comes from. He comes from good stock, y'all, and I'm a witness, an eyewitness.
Well, come on now.
And let me tell you, he has a wonderful wife, Lindsay, 2 boys, Simon and Henry, and he is my good friend. And I'm telling you, y'all, this is a dynamite young man. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, my friend, my son, my next Attorney General.
Until I saw the speaking schedule. And it said that I was going after the incomparable Gwen Moore. And I said, that is not fair to put me after Gwen Moore. Thank you for that extremely kind, generous introduction. It is great to be here. It is great to see all of this energy. As the Congresswoman said, I grew up in a family that was deeply involved in public service. I grew up in Oshkosh and Fond du Lac, and I had the opportunity to spend part of my career in public service as a federal prosecutor in Baltimore, where I prosecuted drug traffickers, gang members, and murderers, and worked to make communities safer. I've also had the opportunity to go to court to protect our fundamental constitutional right to vote. I've been to trial in Arizona, been to trial in North Carolina, Ohio, and Virginia, but the case I'm proudest of is one we tried here in Wisconsin, where we challenged more than a dozen different restrictions on voting that were enacted in Scott Walker's first term in office. We went to trial. The trial lasted almost 2 weeks, and after that trial, a federal court in Wisconsin struck down several of the restrictions that Scott Walker had enacted that made it harder for early voting, that made it harder to register to vote in Wisconsin. So as a result of that case, we have multiple early voting locations here in Milwaukee. And now I'm running for Attorney General. And I'm running for a lot of reasons, but fundamentally I want my family and all of our families to live in a Wisconsin that is safer and stronger than the state that we're on track for right now. And there is so much that an effective Attorney General can do to help us move in the right direction.
That's right.
One area where we need new leadership is when it comes to fighting crime and getting justice for Wisconsinites. We have an opioid epidemic and a growing meth problem that have been devastating for families across the state. We had nearly 900 opioid-related overdose deaths in Wisconsin last year. And we're not going to beat that epidemic until we start responding to it like the crisis it is. That means making sure that our enforcement efforts are targeting large-scale traffickers who are sending drugs across county lines and state lines, but it also means investing in treatment far more seriously than we have so far, so that people who are addicted to drugs are able to get the help they need to get back on their feet. And we need an Attorney General who is finally going to be serious about holding the pharmaceutical companies accountable for the role that they have played in creating has also mishandled our backlog of untested rape kits in Wisconsin. In his first year in office, we received millions of dollars to test those kits, and after he had served for 2 years, only 9 of the kits in the backlog had been tested. He claimed there was no backlog, which PolitiFact found to be pants on fire, false, its worst possible rating. And what that delay in testing kits has meant is that justice has been delayed for survivors, and that people who have committed a serious, violent crime have remained on the streets longer than they should have. We need an AG who understands that eliminating that backlog should have been a priority from day one in office. And we also need an AG who is going to do more to keep our schools safe here in Wisconsin. The current AG has suggested that we consider arming teachers, a suggestion that I find alarming. He's criticized our gun-free school zones. What I think we need in Wisconsin are some common sense gun safety measures. Let me say that I look forward to working with Governor Evers to fight. So we need new leadership when it comes to fighting crime and getting justice. We also need an AG who's going to be serious about enforcing the laws that protect our environment and that protect consumers in Wisconsin. And I will just give you one example. When it comes to protecting our environment, our last Attorney General, a Republican, J.B. Van Hollen, collected more than $3 million a year in fines from polluters. Under our current AG, that has dropped to under $1 million a year. It'd be great if that was because pollution had dropped by 2/3 in Wisconsin, but I have yet to find somebody who's willing to tell me that that's the case. And in fact, in Kewaunee County right now, far too many families, when they turn on the tap, have to worry that brown water is going to come out. Amen. In Wisconsin, in 2018, every family should have access to clean, safe drinking water. By our Attorney General. So we need new leadership when it comes to fighting for our environment and when it comes to fighting for consumers. And we need an AG who understands that we should be working in Wisconsin to expand access to affordable health care and to reduce costs. And again, I look forward to working with Governor Tony Evers to fight to expand Medicaid and Badger Care here in Wisconsin. Additional Wisconsinites will be eligible for Badger Care, and we will save the state about $190 million a year that can be put to other uses. But our Attorney General is taking us in the opposite direction right now. He's one of the leaders of a lawsuit that is seeking to invalidate the Affordable Care Act. I believe our AG should be standing up for our rights and protections, but he is fighting to take protections away from Wisconsinites with pre-existing conditions. If that suit is successful, health insurance companies will once again be able to deny coverage to people on the basis of a pre-existing condition. And young adults will lose the guarantee that they can remain on their parents' coverage until they turn 26. As your Attorney General, I will seek to withdraw from that lawsuit because we should be working taxpayer money. And speaking of wasting our taxpayer money, you may have heard that our Attorney General spent about $83,000 of taxpayer money on promotional materials. That includes money that was spent on promotional stress balls. It includes money that was spent on custom-made fortune cookies, which I didn't even know was a thing that existed until I learned about this, but apparently you can get your own custom-made fortune cookies. And he spent about $10,000 of taxpayer money on fake gold-plated coins with his name on them. As the Congresswoman mentioned, I have 2 young sons. One is 4 and one is 1. And in my household, if you're going to spend money on fake coins, they should at least have chocolate inside. But in all seriousness, our Attorney General in his first 2 years in office spent $10,000 on fake coins, and only 9 of the kits in our rape kit backlog were tested. That to me is the definition of misplaced priorities. So we need new leadership in our Attorney General's office. We need new leadership in our Governor's office. Yes! And there is energy across this state. I have seen it as we have been traveling around. But let's not kid ourselves. There is going to be a lot of money spent on negative commercials. There has already been a lot of money spent attacking Senator Baldwin. There's going to be money spent in other races as well. And what we need to do is get our message out around Wisconsin. So please keep pounding the pavement, keep knocking on doors, keep posting on social media, and keep talking to your friends and neighbors about the issues in these races. And let's bring a victory home in November. Yeah! I have the privilege today of introducing a real leader, of introducing somebody who I am looking forward to working with to make Wisconsin safer and stronger. Your next Lieutenant Governor, Mandela Bones.
The ideas are on our side. The organizing is on our side. This is the year. This is the moment we send Scott Walker packing. Can you think of a time where we've had a slate this strong? Josh Call, Sarah Godlewski, me, and Tony Evers. We are not united only in the cause of defeating Scott Walker. We are united in the cause of bringing real hope and opportunity back to Wisconsin. Yes. We are leading with a vision. We're not going to repeat election cycles of being anti-Scott Walker, because we don't win when we knock on doors and say we're not Scott Walker. We don't win when we knock on doors and say we're Democrats. We win when we lay out a real plan to improve the lives of people across the state. So I could not be more honored to be on this ticket. I got in the race for Lieutenant Governor because of the need for us to restore and expand opportunity. As a public school graduate here in Milwaukee, I've seen some of our greatest challenges. And I always want to take that vision, that perspective across this entire state. And the further we go up north, the further we go out west, the more we realize that we have so much in common. Gone are the days of Scott Walker's divide and conquer strategy. This is the year that we come together and talk about a plan to increase access to health care. That means we take the Medicaid expansion. It means we create a public option for Badger Care. It means that we take on these drug companies for price gouging. Our plan for opportunity, the central theme is education. Without education, we don't get anywhere. And Wisconsin was once an educational leader. But Scott Walker's made us a laughingstock. So not only do we need to fully fund our public schools, we need to create a pathway so that students can afford to go on to further their education. We need to make sure that technical college is available to students who graduate high school here in Wisconsin. We need to make sure that even our undocumented residents can go to college at in-state tuition. Wisconsin has to become a higher ed, lower debt state. That means that if we have student loans, we should be able to refinance those loans. We should be able to borrow money at the same rate the big banks get to borrow money. And I can assure you, Wisconsin will once again be a state that protects our environment. It means that we fully staff our DNR. It means that we bring scientists back into the agency. It means that we get rid of the climate deniers. It also means that we look at the threat of climate change and create opportunities through a Green New Deal. We need to invest in renewable energy right here in the city. We need to become a state that is fully powered by renewable energy. That's how we put people to work. That's how we create living wage jobs right here in the state of Wisconsin. We can be a part of changing the conversation. We can be a part of moving the needle. We can be a state that is ready to actually be in the 21st century. Because we're not right now. Scott Walker has turned the clock backwards, but it is time that we advance the cause again of education, of increasing access to health care, of protecting our environment, of ending the era of mass incarceration. It means that we become a state that is more welcome and open to immigrants. I try not to speak too much for Tony, but I can tell you right now that on the issue of immigration, the only wall that we're looking to build is a wall between Scott Walker and Donald Trump. Like I said, I'm not going to make it too much about Scott Walker, but he's been saying he's the education governor, right? And this is like his morning affirmation routine where he looks in the mirror and says, I'm the education governor. I'm the education governor. And he can do all he wants to do to convince himself, but he will never convince us that he is the education governor. So with that said, I am ready to introduce the real education governor. Our superintendent of public education, my running mate, next governor of the state of Wisconsin.
Tell you that I'm Tony Evers and I'm going to be the next governor of Wisconsin. I absolutely am so excited to be on the same ticket with Mandela. Obviously, he's done a great job. He's going to be a great running mate, and he's going to be a great lieutenant governor. Thank you so much, Mandela. I need to recognize my primary opponents that are here today. We had a long primary. I'm very happy that I won, and we had a great win. But the most important thing about them is they're here today, and they made me a better candidate. We were able to discuss the issues all across the state of Wisconsin, challenging each other, helping us narrow our focus, and being able to be understood by the people of the state of Wisconsin. And I have to tell you, it was an honor for me to work with them on every single stage we're at. So folks, how about a round of applause for them? There are those that said during the campaign, not these folks, but elsewhere, said, Evers, he's bland, he's boring, the hell with that. I eat an Egg McMuffin every morning. I like to play euchre, and my wife and I like to polka. What's boring about that? I'm a proud Plymouth progressive, folks. And for those of you who don't know Plymouth, eastern part of the state, we're called the cheese capital of the world. And the reason we know that, there's this big sign downtown that says, we're the cheese capital of the world. And if you're not convinced beyond that, We have a big plastic cow downtown too. The cheese industry is big. My very first job was scraping mold off of cheese. And that's where I learned actually how to like cheddar cheese. But using the cheesemakers as a perfect example of Donald Trump and Scott Walker's problems. The cheesemakers of Plymouth, about 90% of Wisconsin cheese flows through Plymouth. And it ends up going internationally and, of course, nationally. Donald Trump, with his tariff talk, all he has to do is open his mouth or go on Twitter, right? Started the tariff talk about cheese, and people are making business decisions, bad business decisions around that. Farmers are losing their contracts. Plymouth is being devastated by it. And Scott Walker has said nothing. That's right. Absolutely nothing. Scott Walker doesn't care about anybody but Scott Walker. Right? And I'll tell you this. When he messes with the people of Wisconsin, that is Donald Trump, messes with the people of Wisconsin, he will no longer have a doormat in his way to come into this state. I will not be a doormat of Donald Trump. We're going to take him on every time he messes with the state. My wife and I, Kathy, have lived all across the state of Wisconsin. We've always been welcomed with open arms. People of Wisconsin are kind, generous, compassionate. They care about their schools. They care about things that, frankly, are to our Wisconsin values. And Mandela mentioned it, that's what this race is about. Lord knows there's all sorts of things to bring Scott Walker into the conversation. Divide and conquer, right? That's what sets me different from Scott Walker. He wants to divide and conquer us. I believe what is uniting us is much, much stronger than what anything will divide us. So, we're taking a different tact here. Yes, we're going to hold him accountable. Yes, we're going to point out our differences between Mandela and I and Lieutenant Governor Clayfish and Governor Walker. We're going to put them out to pasture. But here's where we're going to capture it. The issues that we talk about, any one of us, the issues that we talk about are issues that are strong in Wisconsin. I'll use education as an example. Over the last couple years, hundreds of school districts have gone to referendum because they love their public schools. They're raising their taxes on themselves. Don't let Scott Walker say that he's cut taxes. He's increased taxes. People in the state of Wisconsin said, we love our public schools and we're going to pay for it ourselves. That is wrong. I'll tell you a quick story. I was visiting just the other day and talking to a paraprofessional in special education from a local school district near Milwaukee, a wealthy school district. And her name was Ann. And she talked about how even though she was the lowest paid person in that school building, how she loved working with those kids and making sure that they got a good start in life. Because there is a shortage of money in the wealthiest school district in the state of Wisconsin, she had 15 minutes per classroom. And she went from classroom to classroom to classroom. And she was telling me how much those kids are missing out on. We can change that. I'll tell you what's going to happen here, folks. I am proposing my budget right now for education. We're going to make a huge change in the state. And just to give you a flavor of this, in the past, I would put my budget together, it would go to Walker, he'd cut the crap out of it, and that was it. This time, I'm creating the budget, it's going to go to me. Yeah! All day 4K. Yeah. We are going to make a historic investment of $600 million in special education. We're going to fund mental health services. And we're going to reach the promised land of 2/3 funding for our schools. And we're going to get there without raising property taxes. The issue of priority. Of course, health care, we have to have affordable health care in this state. The other first thing I'll be doing is taking in Medicaid money. We have to do it. There's a reason that people live in western Wisconsin are crossing the bridge to live in Minnesota for getting the same coverage they would have here for half the price. Walker didn't take the Medicaid money. He didn't set up the exchanges right. We will do that. Starting with day one. Our infrastructure is going to hell. Roads, internet, mass transit. People in Wisconsin are tired. In northern Wisconsin, they're scraping off the asphalt to the roads because they don't have the money to fix them. Can you think about that? We want to make sure that millennials move to this state. How about this for a slogan? Come to Wisconsin and you can drive on gravel roads. Wouldn't that be great? We are not going to allow that to happen. Walker drew the line in the sand. We are going to fund our roads and mass transit, making sure that Wisconsin is better than 49th. I know we can do that. The issue of roads is that we know that we have all sorts of pothole problems. If you go across the state of Wisconsin, you'll see these big signs that say, we no longer call them potholes, we call them sack holes. Perfect. I knew you'd be there for me. Around the issue of natural resources, science is part of my DNA, folks. I started my career teaching science. If we don't return scientists to helping us making decisions, my kids and my grandkids, there's nothing more important in this state than our water. Texas has oil, we have water. Thank God for that. The other thing we're going to be working on real hard, and I know you all believe in this, our correctional system is absolutely busted. If you look like me, the chances of going to prison are almost nil. If you don't look like me, it's big. We have to change this. Wisconsin does have a race problem, in case if you didn't know that. And the governor has to take a lead on this. Changing this notion is an issue about what's in your heart and what's in your mind, individually. But if the governor doesn't recognize this issue and take this on directly, he or she is making a mistake. I will take this on. It's exceedingly important. The last thing I'll say is that regardless of my bland background and eating my muffins every day and doing the polka with my wife Kathy and all those things that people feel are dull, I'm going to fight like hell every single day. I will have your man. We need to do this together. We all need our best. Thanks so much.
Not here? Probably scooted? All right. Well, I should,
Johnson's here though.
how you doing?
I live in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just rock it back and forth. What? They just pop it up.
How do you do that? Professional cook game. How many clocks do you want? How many clocks do you want?
I mean, perfect.
Yeah, I just did a walk around.
How old are you?
I'm 9.
All right. And what's your name?
My name's Aaron. I go to Harborside at Academy, and
Where's that?
it's down by Sheridan Road.
Well, in Kenosha.
Kenosha. I was about to say, I never heard. I know where Sheridan Road in Kenosha is, but I was like, never heard of that.
How's it?
Alrighty.
And my name's Enzo. I go to Lincoln Middle School.